I'm glad to welcome you once again to the Manifested e-learning platform. The subject is governance and compliance audit. The topic is governance and compliance risks. Today we're going to analyze the impact of non-compliance, and this impact is categorized into three. We have the legal impact, business impact, and reputational impact. You understand? Yes. Because candidates on compliance with laws, regulations and internal policies and ethical standards, non-compliance can have severe and far-reaching consequences for an organization. And these impacts may fall into three main categories. We have legal impact, business impact, and reputational impact. We are going to explore each and every category of impact of non-compliance. Let's begin with the legal impact. Legal impact. Impact means consequence. What is the consequence of the legal consequences of not complying with laws, regulations, and internal policies? Now, the legal impact refers to the direct penalties, sanctions, and liabilities imposed by regulatory bodies or courts due to failure to adhere to legal and regulatory requirements by companies. And key legal consequences include fines and penalties. 1. Fines and penalties. Fines and penalties. This is the most common form of legal impact. Kenyan regulatory bodies have the power to impose substantial fines. For example, non-compliance with the Data Protection Act can lead to fines up to 5 million or even 1% of an organization's annual turnover, whichever is lower, for serious breaches. Financial institutions also face significant fines for anti-money laundering non-compliance. For example, the Business Laws Amendment Act of 2014 introduces penalties up to 20 million or even 3 times the monetary gain from non-compliance for non-deposit taking credit providers operating without KCB license, plus daily penalties for continued non-compliance. We may cite more examples like KRA, which imposes penalties for non-compliance, or up to 10,000 shillings or 5% of the tax due for late filing, or even up to 75% of the tax evaded for understatement. There are also daily penalties for ongoing non-compliance that regulators impose until the issue is rectified. Okay? So we have fines and penalties. Daily penalties. For example, failure to file beneficial ownership information in Kenya can lead to an immediate 500,000 shillings fine with an additional 50,000 shillings fine for each day the default continues. So you have fines and penalties. We may have imprisonment. Imprisonment. Now, in severe cases, individuals like directors or officers found responsible for deliberate non-compliance or criminal offenses related to the breach of laws can face jail term. For example, under the Data Protection Act, individuals found guilty of unlawful data processing or disclosure can face up to 2 years imprisonment. We also have the Social Health Authority. The Social Health Authority scheme can impose a fine of 2 million shillings or 3 years imprisonment for employers failing to declare employees. License revocation. A license may be revoked or suspended. License revocation or suspension. This is where regulatory bodies can withdraw or suspend an organization's operating license or permits, effectively forcing it to cease operations. For example, financial institutions risk losing their banking licenses for persistent non-compliance with the prudential guidelines or anti-money laundering regulations. 4. Litigation and lawsuits. Litigation and lawsuits. These are civil, they could be civil lawsuits, could be civil lawsuits, or just criminal prosecutions. These are impacts of non-compliance. Right? Now, civil lawsuits affects parties like customers, employees, shareholders who can sue the organization for damages resulting from non-compliance. For example, customers whose data is breached due to company's negligence may file lawsuits seeking compensation. Employees may also sue for wrongful termination or unsafe working conditions due to labor law non-compliance. We have also criminal prosecution. This is for serious offenses where the state can initiate criminal proceedings against the organization or its responsible individuals. 5. Forced remediation is another consequence. Forced remediation or corrective action. Here, regulators may issue orders requiring the organization to take specific actions to correct non-compliance, often at a significant cost. 6. Increased regulatory scrutiny. Is yet another consequence of non-compliance, increased regulatory scrutiny. Now, once an organization is flagged for non-compliance, it may face heightened and prolonged scrutiny, including more frequent audits and inspections by operators. So these are impact of non-compliance. These are legal impacts. Fines and penalties, imprisonment, license revocation and suspension, litigation and lawsuits, forced remediation. We have also increased regulatory scrutiny. Let's discuss business impact of non-compliance. Business impact of non-compliance. Now, the business impact refers to the direct and indirect financial and operational consequences that affect the organization's profitability, efficiency, and sustainability. And such consequences include financial losses. Financial loss is a business impact. Financial loss. And this is loss beyond the fines. It could be loss of revenue. This is loss beyond the fines we are discussing in legal impact. After the fine that is paid in legal, under legal impact, we also have loss of revenue. Loss of revenue due to decreased sales, due to inability to operate, or even loss of contracts. That can lead to loss of revenue. It may also lead to increased operational costs. Let me have it here. Increased operational costs is another business impact of non-compliance. These are costs associated with remediation, associated with implementing new systems, and also hiring compliance experts, hiring legal fee, hiring compliance experts. It could also be legal fees and increased insurance premiums. Another example of financial loss is devaluation of assets. Devaluation of assets, including intangible assets like brand value. When you have reputational damage, it reduces the assets. You know, good name is an asset. Reputation or goodwill of the company can go down because of non-compliance. You may also have compensation costs. These are examples of losses, financial losses, compensation costs. Paying out settlements to affected parties like data breach victims and so on. Loss of intellectual property. Loss of intellectual property. If non-compliance leads to security breaches that exposes trade secrets, then that can lead to loss of intellectual property. Understand? So that's financial losses. Another that is financial losses candidates. Then this is one. Then two, we have operational disruption. Operational disruptions as another impact. Operational disruptions. That means diversion of management and staff time from core business activities to addressing non-compliance issues or responding to investigations and implementing corrective measures. That is an impact. Or we could also have temporary cessation of operations or specific business lines where the company stops its core activities to deal with these issues of non-compliance. That is an impact. It's a business impact. Or just inability to launch new products or enter new markets due to regulatory hurdles. Then three, we have difficulty in raising capital. Difficulty in raising capital is another consequence of non-compliance and business impact. Investors and lenders may be wary of non-compliant organizations, perceiving them as high risk, leading to higher cost of capital or inability to secure financing. 4, loss of business opportunities. Non-compliance can lead to loss of business opportunities. Some contracts, especially with the government entities or international partners, require a strong compliance track record, and therefore non-compliance can disqualify an organization from bidding for such opportunities. 5, increased audit risks. A history of non-compliance makes an organization a target for more frequent and intrusive audits by internal and external parties. There is also impact on supply chain. Non-compliance can also affect the supply chain. Non-compliance can affect relationships with suppliers and also partners who may be unwilling to associate with the high-risk entity. 7. Competitive disadvantage is yet another effect of non-compliance. Compliant competitors can gain an edge, while the non-compliant organization may struggle with the legal battles and reputational damage. And that leads us to reputational impact. Reputational impact. Reputational impact. Apart from legal impact and business impact, non-compliance can also have reputational impact. The reputational impact refers to the damage to an organization's public image, to an organization's trustworthiness, to an organization's brand value, which can have a long-lasting negative effect. And such reputational impacts include loss of customer trust, loss of customer trust. Non-compliance can lead to loss of customer trust and loyalty. Loss of customer trust and loyalty. Customers may lose faith in an organization that has failed to protect their data, or cheated on taxes, or engaged in unethical practices. And that often leads to customer churn and difficulty in acquiring new customers. For example, you may have a Kenyan digital lender found to be harassing borrowers or operating without a license, which will rapidly lose customers. Brand tarnishing is another impact. Brand tarnishing and negative public perception. And negative public perception. Brand tarnishing and negative public perception is an impact of non-compliance. We may have public scandals, media scrutiny, and negative social media attention, which can severely damage a brand's image, making it difficult to recover. For example, a company involved in an environmental pollution scandal, like dumping waste in a river, will face public backlash. It can face boycotts and significant drop in its public standing. 4 or 3, there is also difficulty in retaining talent. That's another impact, reputational impact. Difficulty in attracting and retaining talent. Top talents prefer to work for organizations with a strong ethical standards and a positive reputation. And therefore, non-compliance issues can deter prospective employees and cause existing employees to leave, leading to higher attrition rates. The 4th impact of non-compliance under reputational impact is investor relations damage. Damage of investor relations. Investors, particularly institutional and ethical investors, view non-compliance as a significant risk to their investment. And this can lead to a drop in stock prices, it can lead to difficulty attracting new investment, and divestment by existing shareholders. Then we have deterioration of stakeholder relationships. 5, deterioration of stakeholder relationships. The relationships of the stakeholders may also deteriorate as a result of non-compliance, as a result of a company not obeying rules, not adhering to regulations and so on. So harmful impact on relations with regulators that are like government bodies, local communities, and even industry associations. This can make future operations more challenging. That's another reputational impact of non-compliance. So that's all for our today's lesson, where we have analyzed the impact of non-compliance. And we've stated that non-compliance with laws, regulations, and internal policies and ethical standards can have severe and far-reaching consequences. These consequences can be categorized into three: legal consequences, business consequences, and reputational consequences. We've analyzed legal consequences. One is fines and penalties. Two, imprisonment. Non-compliance can lead to license revocation and suspension. It can also lead to lawsuits and litigation, which could either be civil or criminal prosecution. We have forced remediation, increased regulatory scrutiny. We've also analyzed business consequences. We have financial losses, which could be loss of revenue, it could be increased operational costs, devaluation of assets like goodwill, compensation costs, and loss of intellectual property. The second impact of business is operational disruptions, difficulty in raising capital, loss of business opportunities, increased audit risks, impact on supply chain, and also competitive disadvantage. The reputational impacts include loss of customer trust and loyalty, number one. Number two, brand tarnishing and negative public perception. Number three, we have difficulty in attracting and retaining talent. Number four, investor relations damage. Number five, deterioration of stakeholder relationships. So these are legal impacts, business impacts, and reputational impacts of non-compliance. Thank you for attending the lesson. Bye-bye.